The purpose of this tutorial is to show you how you can use Turnitin to significantly boost your paper grade. Turnitin is also incredibly helpful because if there are any plagiarism problems, Turnitin may detect them, and then you'll have an opportunity to get those problems corrected before you turn in the final draft of your paper and risk getting a failing grade in the course. So I'm inside the coursework materials area of the Psych 220 course, and down here at the bottom the professor has provided links to the Turnitin area. When you're ready to upload a file for Turnitin to scan, you get prompted to enter a name. You want to enter a name for yourself, but your paper also needs a name because you may end up with several uploads that you need to differentiate. At this point, you have several options for how you upload your paper. I'm uploading from my computer, and I'm inside the right folder now, and I want to upload this sample page of terrible writing. When I click upload, I'll then be advanced through a few confirmation screens. Sometimes these take a little while. But in this case, my sample document is only one page. It doesn't take that long. You may discover that your document takes longer to scan, and sometimes you have to wait a little while before some of these grayed out areas become colored, and then that's your signal that the scanning is all done, and you're ready to look at the results. To reload the page to check if the scanning is done, you can click on Assignment Inbox, and then now I'm going to click on this color inside of Similarity. You may not see a grade column. I'm not sure if that's available to students. So I'm clicking on Similarity here for the document that I'm interested in. And you can see that inside this Turnitin screen, there are 3 tabs here. I'm going to be telling you about the originality and the grade mark tabs. Before I do that, I want to warn you about over-interpreting or misinterpreting any percentages that you see within the originality tab. You might be wondering, well, what is an acceptable percentage? And the answer is there's no way of knowing. There is no percentage that can be blindly interpreted as problematic or not problematic. In a typical psychology paper, you're going to have a references page that is full of words that are not yours. You're also going to have phrases within your paper that are not original. One example is antisocial personality disorder. That phrase is not original, but it's not plagiarism for you to use such a phrase. So students ask me all the time, what percentage is okay? And there's no answer to that. The way to use the originality area within Turnitin is to instead look at what Turnitin highlights within your text. Any areas that are marked in red, you need to look at it. You need to use your critical thinking skills. You need to use your understanding of plagiarism and determine whether you've really got a plagiarism problem or not. Of course, if Turnitin is showing you something like 60% of a given sentence is the same as a sentence that appears in an article that you're citing, that is evidence of plagiarism, and you want to get that promptly corrected before you turn in the final draft of your paper. But don't be surprised if Turnitin highlights your entire references section and tells you that none of the words in your references section are original. Now, in this example, it turns out that all of the words appear to be original. It's telling me right over here there are no matching sources for this report. So Turnitin could not find any web pages or any documents in its gigantic database that had very similar sentences to any of these that appear on this page. So now let's go over to the grade mark page. This is where you can get pretty good, but not perfect, feedback on your writing. Over here on the right side, you will notice some of the things that Turnitin tries to detect. It's not perfect. Consider that this is just software. It's 2015, and our software gets smarter and smarter every year, but it's still not perfect. But it is pretty impressive that Turnitin strives to detect awkwardness, lack of support, vagueness, punctuation problems, run-on sentences, etc. And just like when you're looking at things that might be plagiarism, you need to also use Turnitin's prompts, like these little purple notes that you see here. You need to use these prompts in conjunction with your understanding of good writing. So Turnitin accurately detected that there's a duplication here. The student accidentally wrote that twice. Turnitin thinks there's a missing comma here. That may or may not be accurate, but at the very least, this is telling you, look at this sentence again. There's a good chance that there's a problem here in the way that this list separated with commas is generated. Also here, it's saying there's a wrong article at the end of the sentence, and actually, when I read that sentence more carefully, I don't think the problem is a wrong article, but it's definitely the case that there's a problem here at the end of the sentence. Probably the student meant to write errors instead of error. There's also a serious interpretation problem in that sentence. But you get the general idea. Don't assume that Turnitin is going to perfectly detect everything, but do look very carefully at anything it does highlight and ask yourself whether there's a problem there. Also, be very careful that you're not using Turnitin as a substitute for multiple rounds of proofreading and revision. There are going to be things that Turnitin cannot detect, especially in psychology papers. And so this is not a substitute for you rereading your paper multiple times and making multiple revisions. But it is a very helpful step in the midst of those revisions and those stages of proofreading to help you detect problems that you may have just overlooked. So I hope this helps you write high quality papers in the future.